Hi everyone, I'm the founder of Enough. I'm Ginette Blackbeard, the founder of Enough, Upcycled Beauty Health. So my background, I grew up in small towns around South Africa. My dad was an exploration geologist, which meant we moved around a lot. And as a result, I spent a lot of my time outdoors. And I really developed a good respect for nature. Back then, there weren't buzzwords like sustainability and that sort of thing. But I always really had a healthy respect for nature. My entrepreneurial journey kind of started in 2004 when I started up my own ad agency along with a couple of other partners. And I ran the creative studio, and that really solidified my kind of background with creative concepts and design, which I used throughout all of the businesses that I've since started. But about 10 years into my journey, I really kind of felt very stuck. And I said to my father-in-law, I feel like there's something different for me. I need to be doing something more. But I said, this is what I studied. I don't really know what else to do. And he said to me, come and join my business. I'll take you under my wing and I will mentor you. He said, Ginette, you don't need to know everything, but I will show you how to assemble the right team of people with the right technical knowledge for any job. And you just have to manage the process. And that's I've taken with me into every business that I've been involved in. And it took away the fear of navigating the unknown, because I knew with any challenge that I had, I could just find the right people that could help me. And since then, I've been involved in very many other businesses, from engineering to like a water startup, of which didn't make it, it failed. And I think as an entrepreneur, you have to have some failures, because those are your character building things. And you know what they say, smooth seas never made a skilled sailor. So I think they're very important in terms of building your business experience. So by the time the opportunity for Enough came around, I'd already started thinking around circular design principles, but I didn't really know what they were. And I always believe when you are doing the right thing in life, when you're aligned with what you truly need to be doing, the universe will open opportunities for you. And as luck would have it, a circular economy accelerator was started up by the Ministry of Finland a month before I launched my business. So that was really critical in kind of shaping my my kind of ideas around circular economy at the start of my business. So Enough is South Africa's first upcycled beauty brand. We combine circular beauty practices with our award-winning beauty formulations. So what we do is we take byproducts from various industries such as coffee brewing and fruit juicing, and we combine them with other clean ingredients in order to create our award-winning formulations. So our upcycling ethos also extends to our packaging. We don't only include it in our ingredients. So our upcycling, our range is made from packaging waste. We have a cardboard range our products are packaged in. And then our hemp psyllium packaging is also is mushroom grown packaging from hemp hurd, which is the waste product from the hemp industry. So by taking these upcycled ingredients, we're really able to divert the amount of waste going to landfill, thereby simultaneously reducing the effect of greenhouse gas emissions on the environment. And when I launched this business, I was using the word waste a lot because, you know, in the kind of the green economy, everyone wants to hear you processing waste. But I very quickly realized that people don't really want to hear the word waste in the beauty industry. But how I always like to say is that it's not, as Will.i.am said, waste isn't waste until you waste it. So I always say, if I was a baker and I was making a cake and I needed to use an egg yellow only for my recipe, if I used the egg yellow and I didn't need the egg white, I would throw that egg white away and that would become waste. But if you were a baker that was making meringues and you needed to use my egg whites, you would take my egg whites and make them for your meringue. So in essence, you'd be having an upcycled ingredient. So it's not waste per se. And that's the way I really like to think about things. So just to give you a little bit more detail about the sort of, when I say coffee byproduct, so we've got a caffeine range, which is made from, we've got a body scrub, which is made from spent coffee grinds. So those are sourced from Truth Coffee Roasting in town. And how that happens is when I manufacture, I would go to Truth every day, give them a bucket, and then as they finished making their coffee, they would put it inside the bucket. And then at the end of the day, I collect the buckets, and then I dry all of those coffee grinds, because obviously the drying of the coffee grinds is really essential to make sure that the mold doesn't grow on them. And then I use a chemical-free sterilization method. My experience from the water industry, I use a germicidal UV to sterilize those coffee grinds. And then I send those to my manufacturer. Obviously outsource some of my manufacturing to a ISO accredited manufacturing facility. And then they use that in the formulation. And then I have also a tissue oil and a serum, and that uses an upcycled coffee oil. So what that is the spent coffee grinds. I don't do the processing myself. I use a company that already uses this process. They collect the spent coffee grinds from various industries, like the hotel industry, restaurants, and that sort of thing. And then they have extracted, they've finalized the methods to extract the coffee oil out of that. And that coffee oil is really good for your skin. It's got a lot of restorative and repairing qualities to it. So it makes a really great ingredient for a face and a body serum, a body tissue oil as well. Then in May of last year, I developed my blue light elixir. So that uses an upcycled blueberry seed oil. So in the fruit juicing industry, they would obviously take the pulp or the blueberries and then make a pulp out of it. And then that waste pulp, once the juices come out of it, they would throw away. So again, that's a cosmetic grade ingredient that's had all the cosmetic testing done on it. I buy it in, but they've developed the process to, they collect the waste pulp, then they take out those tiny little seeds and they dry them, and then they press an oil out of it as well. And then just like with blueberries that have a lot of antioxidant properties, the oil from the seeds is just as good. It's packed full of antioxidants and has also been proven to absorb blue light. And blue light's obviously everywhere, you know, from your computer screens to the sun, which consists of about 25% blue light. And most of our sunscreens don't protect against this. So there are some really, you know, nature's got all the solutions in it already. So we are getting some really pioneering from the green biotech, getting ingredients out of these things that would have gone to waste. So yeah, that's what we do with Enough. So the beauty industry is a really massive industry. Globally, it's about a $500 billion industry. So unfortunately, with this does come like a lot of unsustainable practices. Globally, it generates about 120 billion units of packaging waste a year. You know, and many of these things aren't recyclable. I think there's been a lot of work. You know, a lot of companies are kind of looking at this as a first tier to look at kind of their packaging, but most of this ends up in landfill. And as an ex-creative, I understand the importance of packaging in the consumer journey. Like, it's a very important part. It gives the consumer the first impression of the brand. But the problem is, once it gets taken out of that single-use packaging, it gets thrown away. So, and then ends up in landfill. Also, a lot of the products are made ingredients containing microplastics. These microplastics sometimes make it through the waterways. There's UV filters that they use in the ingredients that also are not biodegradable, and those nanoparticles also make it into the aquatic system and into the ocean and have devastating effects on our water life. According to the Campaign for Safe Cosmetics, 1 in 3 personal care products contains ingredients that are toxic, not only to ourselves, but to the planet as well. It's a very scary statistic. And I think that that brands need to have more accountability for the sort of ingredients that they're using. And those are the things that they're not speaking about. And the rise in demand for certain raw ingredients such as palm oil, has really led to unethical sourcing of these raw ingredients. That's caused like deforestation and loss of biodiversity, and really kind of exploits vulnerable communities in terms of getting these ingredients. So I think that there needs to be a lot more transparency in terms of where the ingredient, your supply chain of raw ingredients comes from. So, I mean, like platforms like TikTok and Instagram have really like given a voice to small indie brands like Enough, but at the same time, they've also really accelerated kind of unsustainable practices, such as overconsumption, and there's a lot of people that are giving misinformation on these brands and products because they are not really backed by science. So they're using this, and everyone these days wants a quick fix. They want products that are cheaper, and then, the standard saying, when you get something, buy it for cheap, it's easy to throw away. And this is just kind of creating more waste in society. And one of the big trends at the moment is stuff like beef tallow. And, as a sustainable brand, we don't use animal byproducts. Our mission is to kind of use plant-based products that we can get from nature, and the things that we are kind of throwing away at the moment. But the stuff that people aren't talking about is, like this is sourced from the industrial meat market, and this is a major consumer of water consumption and a contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. And often the animals are not kept in very animal-friendly conditions. And there are some brands that are making use of farmers that have regenerative farming and that are grass feeding the cows. But unfortunately, unless a brand like discloses these things, they are not coming from sustainable sources. And as consumers, we all want stuff that's cheaper and cheaper. And like with anything that's free range or is sustainable, these things cost a bit more money, and people would rather put their heads in the sand than kind of know about where their products are coming from. I think the short answer is yes, but I don't think that they are doing enough at the moment. I think, obviously most of them have addressed packaging, because I think this is a kind of first tier easy change to make. They've looked at doing like lighter packaging, making use of bioplastics, which I think is a really good step. And I'm by no means an expert in the recycling process, but a lot of the time, our recycling chains aren't set up to consume these bioplastics, and then they just end up on landfill anyway. And it says that these things are biodegradable, but they're biodegradable under industrial composting conditions. And do we really have enough industrial composting facilities to take care of this? So I think that there's a lot of greenwashing that's going on in the industry, and sometimes unintentionally. I think people, when they're uneducated, they make claims, and they don't really do it knowingly, but they need to be a little bit more, they need to educate themselves a little bit more about that. I think there's definitely a lot of opportunities. I think that circularity should become the new standard in beauty. There's a lot of things that we can do, things like, obviously, like Enough's doing, using upcycled ingredients. At the moment, we use maybe 1 or 2 actives that are upcycled, just because it's still an industry that's growing. So the availability of upcycled ingredients is not that big yet, but according to Cavallo, which is like an online platform for sustainable packaging and raw ingredients, upcycled ingredients are actually one of the most searched categories in the sustainable side. So there's definitely like a lot of growing interest in it, and I think we're going to see a lot more growth in that side. And then I think like in terms of packaging, you know, like I think brands should be looking at what sort of packaging is reusable, not just going to recycling, that's like your first tier, but like what can we reuse? And then what can we refill? I think the refill like industry, there's a lot of opportunity in that, but again, it's like that's changing consumer behavior, and that's always the hardest thing to do. You know, there's a lot of education that needs to go with it, and education marketing is obviously the most expensive type of marketing because it doesn't bring you in a quick sale, but it's really important. So I think there's definitely a lot of scope still to grow in the refill industry. And I had a lot of ideas which I haven't implemented yet, but hopefully we're going to get to those in the future. I think there's also opportunities in terms of packaging. You know, at the moment, there's some incredible innovations that are happening in the packaging space. You know, that are made from kind of waste, and also packaging that biodegrades. I found incredible packaging overseas that's made from microbes that, when put into any soil or marine environment, literally biodegrades down or is compostable and has no microplastics. So I mean, it's a fully compostable packaging solution. It looks like plastic, but it's fully compostable. But the problem is that, you know, the MOQs are 25,000 units. So for a brand like Enough, like how do you take hold of those opportunities? And then, you know, it's a European company, so by the time you've done the conversions and brought it into South Africa, you know, you're looking at 10 times the price of what a plastic bottle would cost. So, you know, the cost is prohibitive. So I definitely think there's a lot more opportunity in terms of packaging innovation, and also for making it available for smaller entrepreneurs. I think we also need to do like smarter and leaner formulation. So like for a brand like Enough, we've currently only got 4 products, and I will expand my range to get into retail. But at this stage, we're going to be quite mindful in how we curate our range, because we don't want to create products just for the sake of creating products so we can make more money. I think that we need to be more clever with like a multifunctional product. So maybe creating like a mask that could double up as exfoliator. So instead of buying 2 products, you'd only have to buy 1. So it's about reducing waste, you know, like the wasteful products. So let's see how we can make that leaner. Also, I think more waterless formulations. Again, that's a consumer change. There's already some brands doing really nice shampoo bars and you know, that are small in size. So in terms of transporting around, there's a lot less of the carbon footprint in terms of transport. But again, it's getting consumers to change what they're used to doing. You know, now I'm not using a shampoo that lathers up like traditionally. You know, you're going to use a bar. And there's brands like Moody's that are making face washes out of a powder. Because a lot of the times, like a lot of these, the main ingredient in some of these personal care products is water. So, you know, you're buying a product and then transporting around South Africa or across the globe, you're transporting around a whole lot of water, which kind of is pointless. So I think we need to get a little bit more clever about the way we formulate our products. And there's obviously some cutting edge stuff that's happening. So we need to keep our finger on the pulse. And then I think just in terms of education and community building, I think, you know, that's a very big component of what I do, is educating the consumers. And as the pioneers of an industry, I think it's your responsibility. Like, yes, it doesn't bring you in like a fast buck and everyone's about making money. But at the end of the day, if we want to see change, we're going to have to invest in educating the consumer. So yeah, whenever I get an opportunity to speak, where I can, I do put time and effort into that, because I do think it's a really important part of progressing our industry. So I think upcycled beauty, I've been saying for a long time, in a few years from now, currently it's a very niche industry. So, it's something that not a lot of people are doing, but I think that in a few years from now, it will just be the way things are done. So that's the way I'd like to see it. And that was kind of reinforced when I went to Finland in November. Was lucky enough to win a pitch contest, and I got to visit Finland, and I attended the Nordic Circular Summit there, and everyone was also talking about the circular economy, and they were saying in a few years from now it won't be the circular economy, it's just going to be the economy, because it's something that we have to do. We can't continue with this linear production of make, take, and then throw away. Like, if we want the world to continue, we have to start looking at more circular practices. And, brands like Enough are kind of pioneering the way. But the problem is we're bootstrapping. So, we're doing the best that we can. But I think in order for mass adoption to happen, like, the bigger brands really need to get on board. And like, the more people doing this, the better it is for the industry. I think one of the things that was also reiterated in Finland was collaboration. And like, the circular economy is a very collaborative industry. Like, we have to work together. Like, you're not going to be able to do this on your own. So it's about creating the right kind of partnerships and really valuing those if you want to get further. So I think like entrepreneurship is really critical in advancing, the green economy. And the big brands, they all want to make change. And when I was in Europe as well, like, obviously every company has got like becoming more circular on their strategic long-term plan. But they are slow to implement change because it just doesn't happen overnight. They've got a lot of processes. They've tried to streamline for efficiency, as they should. But for the disruptive change that comes about, like, it definitely comes from the smaller, more innovative the companies. So entrepreneurship is really important, in terms of driving change. There's been like a massive rise in the amount of incubators and accelerators that I've seen, and I think that's really, really important, and I saw that how lucky I was to have had that at the start of my journey, and I think I wouldn't be where I am today had I not had that sort of support. But they also, for brands like myself, or me personally, I'm already 45 years old, so I'm not a newbie in the space. So there's a time when you kind of finish the training and you just need to get on with growing the business. And that's where like the hard part is. And as part of phase 3 of the accelerator, so it was kind of made up of 3 phases. Like, we started with 50 ladies, then it went down to 25, then to top 15. And we had the chance to go either grant funding or equity funding. And because I was such a new brand, I decided I was going to go to the grant funding route. But I very quickly realized that, like, in my industry, there's no opportunities for grant funding, because they're looking for like high impact businesses, in the climate front. And unfortunately, like, the beauty industry isn't seen as one of those. And it is a bit of a shame, because it's an industry that has the ability to make a lot of change. So that was a shame, in terms of the equity funding. When I was in Finland, I attended Slush as well, which is a big tech festival, and the investors, they're all looking for tech businesses. And I get it. They want to see their 10x investment, scalable businesses that are big. But there are still a lot of non-tech businesses that are driving change in the climate side. And there's not a lot of scope for those sort of businesses, especially when you're pioneering new categories. You're not just making fast returns, you're building a future for like a regenerative long-term future. And I think that there needs to definitely be more support for that.